I'm John Kokoz's Fight Game Television. I'm here with Darin Harvey of Fight Tribe Management. Darin, I'm going to ask you a couple questions. Right now, you know about Strikeforce being purchased by the UFC. How do you feel about that happening?
Well, I think competition in any realm of business is a very important entity. I mean, you have to have competition for the fighters, for the businesses to grow. So to have just the UFC controlling everything is, to be honest with you, a little bit concerning to me. Especially now having such a superstar like Ronda Rousey and knowing how Dana White feels about female fighters. It's, I'm very concerned.
So basically, you're looking at the future of MMA. It's not a good thing that this is happening. How does it think it's going to affect an organization?
I don't know. It could be a good thing. Dana can honor it and see the value in female fighters, and maybe they want to maintain the Strikeforce running parallel with the UFC. Right. I don't know what their plans are. But if it's anything about like what happened with Pride, then they're just buying contracts, and they're buying the Showtime contract, the CBS contract, and fighters contracts and content, and all of a sudden it's just the UFC again. Right. So, and don't get me wrong, I love the UFC. I mean, I've been tracking it since 1993 with the very first show when Royce Gracie fought. I love it. I think they're a fantastic organization. I have a lot of respect for what they've done. But it is concerning that there's only one organization out there when you're trying to, you need competition out there to help make more money for fighters and so on and so forth. And these guys put their asses on the line and they don't make a whole lot of money. People would be shocked if guys got paid tonight.
Right.
It's sad.
Well then, where do you see MMA being in about 5 years from now, or where would you like to see it actually be 5 years from now?
I'd like to see 3 or 4 players, like a Bellator really taking off, Strikeforce remaining around, even though it's going to, the UFC's got to take the best of Strikeforce if they do keep it around.
Right.
UFC is their baby. That's the 800-pound gorilla in the industry. The sport is going to continue to grow. There's a lot of people that say MMA is not that big, the UFC is that big. And the way they brand themselves, they make the UFC is more important than the fighters. In order for the fighters to make the big money, there has to be an organization out there that will put the fighters first. Strikeforce is trying to do that with Fedor, but you have to really build them up.
A lot of people consider you a pioneer in the development of talent in MMA sports, and you brought up before Ronda Rousey, and I had to ask you, I think you were the first person to bring in a good female fighter from overseas, and Lucia Riker, exactly. And Ronda had a fight tonight. She was fantastic. She took the girl out in the fight in about 30 seconds. And maybe you want to talk about it a little bit.
First of all, you said pioneer. To me, a pioneer is a guy that's laying face down with an arrow in his back. But I think Ronda is.
What would you prefer instead of pioneer? What would you use?
No, I think pioneer is a compliment. But I'm just trying to be silly.
Okay.
Ronda is. I've managed Boss Root and I've managed Lucia Riker. I've had some of the top talent. You saw some of my guys fight tonight.
Right.
I know talent, and I think Ronda is one of the greatest talents in the world. I can just feel it. I know when somebody has that winning spirit, and it's more than just skill. I have a guy, a very good fighter that was fighting in the WEC, probably one of the most talented guy fighters I have, and just mentally doesn't really have it. This girl has everything. The other day I was talking about, because she asked, I train jiu-jitsu, I don't really compete. She could not understand how I could not compete. All she knows about is winning in competition. So I don't know if I answered your question.
No, actually, you know what? We interviewed her a little bit earlier this evening, and everything you're saying, you could just tell she's got a great head on her shoulders. I think she has a great future within the sport, and I think a lot of people, are pulling for her, and she's going to have the support of, MMA fighters all around. And it probably will be a good thing for the industry because she's the kind of person that could take it to the next level.
Well, she transcends in MMA.
Right.
And that's what I like about her. She's very, very unique to have a woman like that can fight, that looks like a girl and fights like a man, basically.
And she has a resume to back it up. Coming from the judo background in the Olympics and whatnot. I spoke to her a little bit earlier, and obviously there's a little bit of a transition that comes from going from judo in the Olympics to fighting in MMA, but it looks like it's going to be seamless for her, and hopefully that will be the case.
We're I don't know what question you're after.
No, it's okay.
But Cyborg is in our crosshairs, and we'd really like to fight Cyborg. I'd like her to get a couple more fights before that. It was very difficult for me to get a fight. We had an 0-0 girl that was kind of wishy-washy about taking this fight.
Right.
As an amateur, I've had 10 people back out.
Right.
We have 3 amateur fights that she has less than 2 minutes in all 3 fights combined. But Strikeforce is very aware of her. They told me they'd like me to get her 3 or 4 fights. I'm hoping by taking a girl that was 6-1, that will count for 5 fights.
Right.
And I'm going to call Richard Chu first thing tomorrow and see where he's at.
You want to tell us anything about, I mean, you had several other fighters on the card tonight. Do you want to tell us about any of them?
Yeah. Alberto Crane, who's a UFC vet, one of the best jiu-jitsu guys in the world. I think he did a great job. Got hit a little bit more times than I like. I'm all about protecting my fighters. That's why I do this. I certainly don't do it for the money. I do it because I love the sport, and I love the athletes, and I respect the courage that it takes to get in that cage.
Tell me a little bit about Alberto. From what I understand, is he's an American-born fighter who actually competed in Brazil, or
competed in Brazil. He's, I believe, one of the first Gracie black belts, American Gracie black belts. And he's has all kinds of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament championship credentials. So he's amazing.
Now let me ask you, is there anything, who would you like right now say are the most influential people in the MMA sport? If you want to use the word other pioneers right now in the sport, who would you consider maybe the top 3 people right now in the sport?
I would say Scott Coker, Dana White, and I would say, Federico Le Pen and Boss Boone.
Oh, well, there you go. I would say that too. We know them; they're great guys.
Yeah, and people don't really, because Boss he kind of flies below radar, but he basically controls the heavyweight division in K1, which they're crossing over into mixed martial arts, and these guys are so well rounded that they could beat anybody. So.
Okay. Now let me ask you another question. Right now, who would you say your favorite fighter? Who's your favorite fighter of all time?
Favorite fighter of all times, I would have to say, personality-wise and the way he fights. I don't have.
It's hard to go down to one. I know.
I would say George St. Pierre. I love, because I think he really transcends MMA, and his sponsors are not your typical mixed martial arts sponsors. Like the tap outs. He has Under Armour and Gatorade, and so I just think he represents really well. My favorite pound-for-pound fighter is Jose Aldo, the 45-year fight. He was the champion of WEC and now will be the champion. Well, I think he's a UFC champ now, so I think he's tremendous. But
we got company in the interview right now.
Out of this room. Go on, out. Go on. Charlie, out of here. Charlie, out. Go.
That's fine. Now my follow-up question to that is, what's your favorite fight all time? If you had to say, what was your favorite fight to watch?
I think my favorite fight was the Fedor Krokop fight in Pride. I think that was the most intense fight I've ever seen.
Okay. And we have just one more question, okay? And this is really probably the most important question of the night. We understand you're due to receive your Brazilian black belt. Okay?
Yes.
It's like, when will that be happening? From who?
As soon as I deserve it. And I got my brown belt in 2003, and my son was born. I kind of stopped training after that.
Right.
And I've been training, intermittently with my fighters and stuff. But I'm going. Marcus Vinicius, who's I think a 4th or 5th degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a wonderful teacher, wonderful friend. So I want to feel that I deserve it. He wouldn't give it to me any other way. So I'm in the process of training. I've forgotten so many little details of passing the guard, and just it's a sport of details. Especially as you get older, you better be perfect in your game, because I'm not going to outmuscle a lot of these guys.
Right.
But I have to say, I still, when I train with some pros, I still catch guys. You know what I mean? I'm doing okay.
Let me ask you, what kind of training do you have, overall, and how long you've been training in your life?
I've been training. I have a black belt under Josh Preder, who's on the Olympic trials Taekwondo team, so I have a black belt under him. I have trained with Rob Keeman in Muay Thai, Peter Cunningham. I trained with Seiksan Sanjian in Muay Thai. I've worked out with great boxing coaches, and I've loved the sport since I've been a kid. And a lot of it is because I was a kid with learning disabilities, and I just felt horrible about myself. And I figured if I could maybe physically have this sense of superiority, I'd carry myself with more self-esteem, So I'm not a violent guy, and I love the sport, and I love the courage that it takes to get in there. You can't blame it on anybody.
Well, you know what? Let me just for all the viewers, I think one last question. To a lot of the up-and-coming fighters right now who are maybe looking to get into MMA and possibly, being in your organization, being represented by you, why should they come to Darin Harvey and have him, represent them in MMA sports right now? And why is your organization the one that people want to be a part of?
You know why? Because I care. I don't do it for the money. It would be nice to make money doing it, but I care about the athletes. I turn a lot of people away, and I can't because I'm a very hands-on. There's guys up. Okay, hang on one sec. Here, Rhonda, give them whatever they need. Hold on. Can you guys excuse me for 1 second? We're buying pizza. This is Ronda Rousey. We're celebrating her wonderful victory.
Fighters, who are trying to make it in the sport, who are, watching the fights like King of the Cage today, and they know about your organization, Fight Tribe, and maybe want to become part of an organization like that, or maybe be represented by you and your own team. Why should they look for someone like Darin Harvey? Why would somebody want to come, be in your organization right now?
First of all, it's a dangerous sport, and you need somebody that is not going to whore the fighters out for money. If money is their number one motivation, I think it puts them in a dangerous, precarious situation. I don't do it. I would never sacrifice for all the money in the world, sacrifice their health if I didn't think they were ready to take a particular fight. So I really care. But one thing I'd like to recommend to anybody coming up, because a lot of times these managers will nickel and dime promoters for $100 or $200.
Right.
I think the most important thing is procuring relationships with promoters, not trying to take, the small show, they're not making all that money. I was a real estate developer. Everyone thought real estate developers were just making all the money and kicking people out of their homes. People don't understand. They have bills, they have expenses. And that's what I understand about promoters. They have to make money on these shows like King of the Cage. So they pay the most? No. But do they continuously have shows, multiple shows, year after year after year? So don't fight for a couple $100. Fight for a relationship, a good relationship with a promoter where you can properly pick your opponents. And that's the most important thing, to be brought up the right way. And be ready. Another thing, fight amateur. You should have 5 to 10 amateur wins before you even consider going pro. There's beautiful, wonderful amateur organizations all over the world. And especially we have Camel here in California, and Las Vegas has an organization. I think it's tough enough, and I think it's really important that you just sharpen your teeth. That way you don't ruin your record.
Right.
You can destroy your record. And this is my son, Camel. What do you want to do?
You want to say hello to everybody real quick? What do you want to do? There he is. He's going to take over the family business. All right. Well, to our viewers out there, this is John Kokozis, Fight Game Television. Darin Harvey, thank you very much. It's been a great sport. It was a great time today. Have a good one.